Thanks for joining, everybody, and welcome to book club.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, lovely to see you, ladies.
Hello, hello.
Good to see you.
Wait,
where's Whitney? Is she coming today?
She's not coming today. She was saying that on Marco Polo just like an hour ago. She couldn't make it.
Dang it, I missed it.
I know. How's you guys' week going?
Good. I am in Dallas. If anybody's watching from Dallas, I am over here. Yep. We're excited in Texas. Just for a little bit.
Yeah, things are pretty open in Texas, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the places that I know I will be able to tour this year is Texas and Utah.
Yeah.
I will say
that's all you need. Just kidding.
Yeah, I'll just do a Texas tour, a Florida tour, and a Utah tour. I will say though, everybody has been asking me a lot, like, are you gonna tour? Are you gonna tour? I had a call with my agents this morning, and it's looking really promising. Like, definitely, I will be doing some of the tour, if not all of it. So,
nice.
That's I was so excited. It's the most like positive I've seen my agents in a long time. Like, they seemed excited and they seemed like pumped. I was like, okay, life is good. Okay, so I'm super excited about that. So everybody, you heard it here first. The US tour is probably gonna happen, but I can't officially say that yet.
Do you know when?
It's already scheduled, so tickets are already on sale. It's July and August
of this year.
Year.
My word, where have I been?
Well, she had the one last year, and then they just said we'll do it the following year.
Yeah, so I never re-announced it, like, because I couldn't. I couldn't technically announce it, so that they've just been sitting there waiting to like official, but they're on sale. And so anyways, thank you. I realized that people have still been buying tickets, so thanks for anyone who's been buying tickets. Because it's gonna happen.
Do you have any California dates?
We do.
Not really?
I don't remember when they are, but we do. So
because I promised Abigail, this is her first year, I promised her I would take her, and Adeline.
Oh, that would be so fun. Has Abigail or Adeline never come to a show?
No, I've never taken any of my kids.
Yes,
I just see me and Jessie go.
We got to get the family out.
And
I have pictures of me pregnant with each of my kids at one of your concerts. It's so funny.
So
well, maybe not Ella. I don't know. Yeah, they've all been there.
Yeah, technically, they've all come to a show.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you? I think mine too, except for Abigail, the twins and Adeline, and not Zeke, but the twins and Adeline. I was pregnant at your shows too.
Is that funny? While I was touring, you guys are pumping out babies. Like,
oh boy, we're all birthing something.
We're all creating something. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, different kinds of creation. So cool.
Okay.
So I thought it'd be fun. I didn't pull up any pictures today because I used a lot of the good ones last time, and it's been just a crazy day. I was in a writing session right before this, and then bloop, bloop, came here. But can anyone think of or does anyone want to share one of their favorite memories from when we lived together or were buddies in college? Or anybody got a good memory?
Many. Let me think. I remember one summer, Vivian. I don't remember where everyone else. I think Lindsay and everyone were on their missions, and it was just me and you, wasn't it? We hung out every second. Great. It was awesome. In my yellow car. Yeah.
Yes.
I remember a story.
Me too. I think it's the one that you're thinking of.
Oh, do you want to share it?
Or no?
Wait, yeah, you go for it.
4th of July?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll tell it quickly. But 4th of July, we're super excited to just make the 4th of July celebration an all-day long celebration. So in Utah, there's a Provo River that people like to float down. Oh, no. And as you know, I am not an outdoorsy person at all. But everyone was doing it, and Lindsay and I got a big group to come. And I was like,
we planned it, right?
I think we
planned it. Yeah. Which makes it even better.
We invited like 15, 20 people. And so we were just all kind of carpooling. I volunteered myself to drive. And so we were going up the canyon, and then you get off, right, on tubes to go down the Provo River. So we decided to go up a little bit further because there were tons of people. And I had my keys, and I told our friend Rodney, here's my keys. You keep them, because he had a pocket. So anyway, we're in there. It's freezing, okay? You have to take into account that it's freezing cold water. And so everybody starts kind of pairing up with people. And I was just too scared of even just going in the water. So all of a sudden, I realized that I'm there and there's nobody to pair with. And I'm like, I just need to go on my tube. So tell me if I'm forgetting anything, Lindsay. But I get on this tube, and I just like see everybody just kind of like floating. My butt starts to freeze. It's like not fun to me at all. I'm like, I don't know why we're doing this. And I don't know
why anyone thinks it's fun.
Right?
I don't have anybody to like be miserable with. And so all of a sudden, our friend that was in front of me had the exact same tube. And the current just starts taking us to the trees, like the branches, and her tube pops. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like that's going to be me. Like it's just a matter of minutes, and I'm going to be that person, and I'm going to die. So I tell everyone, I don't know where you were. Obviously, I don't know where anybody was. And so I just yell out, I'm getting out. And so I leave the river. I don't know how I did it, but I was hiking up the mountain.
I don't know how you did either, because it's like a little like ravine, and the river goes through the middle of it. And I just remember I somehow had like gotten in, maybe like I was one of the first in, because I was at the top of the group, and I just turned around and I was like, where's Vivian? And so like I like stop, and I'm like standing in the freezing cold water holding my tube as it's trying to float down the river with like, I think like another guy, like probably Rodney. And we're like, where's Vivian? Anyways, we thought you'd like drowned.
Yes.
Oh no.
Thinking the worst, because they would see like tubes floating down.
Yeah, because then occasionally a tube would float by, and we're all like,
And so anyway, while this is happening to them, they're like freaking out because I'm nowhere to be found. I am hitchhiking to go home, which is like unlike me.
So not Vivian. Like Vivian is very safe, very like cautious. Yes.
Yes. And in my mind, it just made sense, because I was like, they're going to take 4 hours. I'm going to be just sitting in my bikini, and it's better to hitchhike than just like stand here in a bikini by myself. So I hitchhike with this nice little lady, and she takes me back to the house. I didn't have my keys or anything. Oh no. And then I tell the lady, hey, I need to go back to my car and just write a little note telling them that I'm safe and just to bring my car back. And so I put it in the windshield.
Wipers.
Yes. And so I am now at my friend's apartment next to mine, because they always left their door open, watching Mean Girls with popcorn for like 2 hours. And I'm just having the time of my life. Meanwhile, what did you guys do?
We were running up and down the side of the Provo River looking for Vivian, and like literally like scaling these like upward hills and just like calling her name.
Rodney cut his foot.
Yeah, Rodney had to get stitches because he.
Did you like text people? Because I like remember vaguely getting something like Vivian is missing.
Yes,
some SOS, like maybe from Whitney or somebody saying Vivian's missing. Say a prayer for her or something.
Yeah. We were like freaking out. We had to also, the canyon has no reception, so we had to like drive to get reception to call the police. Like the police were out there looking for her too at this point. And
I'm watching Mean Girls. I'm watching Mean Girls in my apartment, just waiting for them.
Oh my gosh. Anyways,
and long story short, that's how it happened. They finally saw the note after hours.
It was, she didn't have a big piece of paper, so it was very little, and it was like kind of dark. So finally we realized there was a tiny little note. I just remember I felt bad because I kept telling people, like, she must have like gotten a ride home, and I was like, Vivian wouldn't do that. You don't know Vivian. She would not get in a stranger's car. And like, I was like, there's no way. And so then I felt so stupid when we found her, and she's like, oh, I hitchhiked home. We're like, what?
And it's my fault.
I I can't believe, honestly, I cannot believe you hitchhiked. I am like shocked by that.
It's the one and only time that I've ever hitchhiked.
Our friend Silver Wolf says Vivian the troublemaker.
Always.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Oh my gosh.
And every 4th of July, I remember that story.
Samson the cat says, "What a weird story." Well,
we're like laughing our heads off.
Sorry,
that's probably what.
We'll move on, but that's oh my gosh, it's always fun to like relive like one memory of.
Yes.
Got so many, and I love that story. It just brings back such funny memories.
What is this hype train thing? It just bumped up to 90. Final level.
In the comments what the hype train is.
It's funny because we probably should know what that is.
I should know what that is.
I saw it the last time too. It kept popping up the last time. I don't know anything about this.
Pops up occasionally.
I don't know. Maybe it's like every time you do a sub or something. I don't know. Or maybe it's an ad and we're like, ooh, what's this?
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Okay, so we're not hype trains are to give people more of an incentive to sub and gift biddies. Oh, guys, we're at 90% on the hype train. Let's go.
Yeah, we knew that the whole time. Yes.
By the way, it's so sad. This is our last week of this round of book club. It's the last week for Daring Greatly. But I got so many messages and saw so many like comments from people in the Discord saying like, we reached 100%. Woo! Woo! Hype train. But saying, I'm so sad it's over. And we are going to continue it. We're going to take a little break from it though. And so next Thursday at the same time follow me on Instagram, but next Thursday I'm going to be doing a stream with Mako. We're going to be talking about like Lose You Now. We'll be talking about the music video because an acoustic version is coming out of Lose You Now. So, and we're going to be dropping a music video. So after that, we'll be streaming on Twitch with Mako next Thursday. So that's exciting. And then I'll be picking a new book really soon, and probably, so not next week, but the following week, I'll start another book with either my sisters or, I don't know, we'll figure out who, it might just be me, but then we'll all come back for the next book. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's my plan.
You don't know a book?
No, I haven't decided a book yet.
Ooh. Exciting.
That's a big decision.
It's a big decision. I'm just gonna throw this out there, and guys can tell me in the comments. I love the book. I hate the title. It's called Think and Grow Rich. It's not about money. It's about manifesting and building the life that you dream of. But the reason it's called Think and Grow Rich is because the writer studied the most successful people in the world, and he wrote about their philosophies and what they did and their habits. And anyways, it is so good. So
I've never read it.
It was written in like the 1930s too, and it still holds up. Like he studied
That's
the Rockefellers and, like all the guys that started the steel companies. And anyways,
that means it's a classic, which means it's gotta be good.
Yeah, it's like to this day, what is with this hair? To this day, it's one of the best selling books, like on these kind of, in that like self-help, self-betterment region, and it's so good. But yeah, also guys, I've been looking at other comments in the Discord where people are suggesting books, so keep suggesting because I'm gonna look through all of those.
And we need to point out that you're not wearing a wig today.
Yes,
that is her real hair, people. I know you were wondering.
Yes, I decided to go for the real hair today because this looked so much like a bad hairpiece.
It's like a bird's nest.
Yeah, it really does.
I love it.
And also, look, it's amazing how long my roots are because it's like I have a bad hairpiece that doesn't match my hair.
Does your hair grow really fast, Linz?
No.
No?
I colored it in like late October. That's the last time I colored it. So.
Oh, wow. It didn't feel that long ago, but I guess that's a while.
That's a while. I know.
It goes by so fast.
Oh, someone says read Brave New World. Mary suggested that. Hair looks beautiful. Thank you so much, Jaguar55. Okay, well, on that note, by the way, guys, If you want to join the Discord, I've been enjoying going on the Discord and seeing all the conversations and commenting back. You can type !Discord into the chat and a link will come up for you to join. Also, for anyone who subscribes, you not only get the adorable little emojis to post that are exclusive for subscribers, but also you get to be a part of a subscribers only section of the Discord, and I go on there every week and I answer pretty much all the questions. So that's been really fun to interact there. Also, all of the money that is made from my Twitch is going to the Upside Fund to help people who are going through medical needs pay their bills. And anyway, so that is really cool. I've received some really sweet emails. Next week, I'll read some of the emails that I've gotten just thanking the community for their assistance and help and what it's meant to them. So thank you for all those who are here, all those who have subscribed. And with no further ado, let's jump in. Okay, I wanted to also share Rob Couples emailed in, and he wanted to comment on the box breathing and the breathing techniques we talked about last week, because he says he's been doing this for years. He says, it is just a suggestion, but I do recommend that you breathe only with your nose. This forces you to use your higher being. I have been meditating since 1991, and I wish I would have realized and knew to do this sooner. He says he spends 10 minutes every day just breathing through his nose, and what a difference it's made. And I was like, that's right. I had forgotten that you are supposed to do it through your nose. So when we were talking about breathing techniques, that's from a professional breather. Thank you, Caitlin.
Sorry. I don't even try to laugh. My brothers used to make fun of me, like growing up. They said I sound like a goat, and I try to laugh quiet, and I'm like,
I love it.
You have you did like I'm a Mormon like video.
Yeah.
And Jenny, were you there? I feel like you were there.
I was there, yeah.
But like that was years ago, and
her apartment.
Yeah, and my brother said he used to watch it when he was on his mission because that was approved. And just to hear my laugh at the end, because at the very end I go, or, you know.
You have to find that.
It's amazing. I love your laugh. And
okay,
also,
anyways.
You give your laugh very freely, which is an amazing characteristic. You know what I mean? Like when you're around Caitlin, you feel funny. Like I feel funny.
She's a
sympathetic laugher.
Yeah.
It's genuine. It's genuine.
You're telling me they're sympathy laughs? They're not.
Oh, my husband's a professional sympathy laugher. He gives them to my dad all the time.
Oh,
but my dad loves them so much.
Your dad tells the best dad jokes. Like they are so dad. Yes.
My dad. That's all I gotta say. He is one of a kind. He's in LA, Linz.
Really?
He's building a chicken coop in Venice Beach right now.
Wait, for your brother?
Nice.
Yeah, for his wife, Linda.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yep.
Speaking of parents, this whole chapter.
Oh, like what?
What? Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, wait, what about parents? So this week's chapter, as Caitlin mentioned, is about wholehearted parenting. And it's interesting because as I read this, like I don't have any kids, but yet I felt like I could still take so much away from it about just like any relationship, especially any relationship that has like leadership. I feel like the leadership chapter and this chapter are great companion pieces. So even if you don't have kids or this is still something that can apply to everybody. And on page 216, let's start there, everybody. Again, we're in Daring Greatly, chapter 7, page 216 is where we're starting. I liked this first part. She says, after all, we rarely engage in self-righteous judgment when we feel confident about our decisions. And so have you guys noticed any time in the last few weeks when you have had an instinct to judge someone or blame someone and realized it's because you're insecure? Like, have you guys had any experiences like almost like catching yourself since studying these topics? I know.
I can't think of anything like particular, but I know we've talked about this, but I do recognize that in those areas that I seem to parse the judges are the ones that are insecurities and issues that I have. So they're not normally because I feel confident in those spaces. They're normally spaces that I must have some concerns or insecurities.
Absolutely. And why, because I have noticed since reading this book, and I was literally like, I should probably read this book at least once every other year, because I feel like I have noticed I've been able to like understand my relationship to the world much better. Because I think, I don't know, just so many times I've been in situations in the last month and been like, normally I would be really offended by that, but I think I'm understanding. Or normally it would be my instinct to want to judge that person, but I'm not going to, because it's like, it's helped me just have a better, like a much more peaceful relationship with the world, internally.
It's kind of like a check and balances, like I have had times, I don't know if it happened this time, but yes, there's times where I've been like, actually I can totally apply what I just read,
Yeah. For
nice.
Sure. I was even talking to my brother-in-law the other day, and he has like a really bad boss situation. And as I was listening to him describe his boss, I'm like, he is incredibly insecure. And he is dealing with a lot of shame right now. And he is blaming you for, like, I was just like so clear, like what was happening, because I've been studying it, and, anyways, it's just interesting to be able to view the world like that. It's been really helping me a lot.
And it just makes things not feel so personal either. And that's like so key, because then it's, when things are personal, it's when it's super hard. But when you can like recognize that this is probably not because of you, it's because of these other situations or concerns, and it's like, oh, and then it's easier to be empathetic towards them, because you're like, oh, I'm sad that you're actually blaming me for that, because that, you know what I mean? It's just like a different dialogue that you have in your head.
Yeah, because you suddenly realize like this person's hurting, or they feel like they're not enough. And it's kind of helped pull me out of like reactionary, into like a much more like I can process things. And I not, of course, I'm sure I'm going to mess up many times, but I can at least understand what's happening and process it better.
And like you said, that reminder, like the book as a reminder, is so helpful, because you do, unless you're daily practicing things, you forget. Like, so the fact that it's like revisiting it, you're like, but it's getting it to a state of complete habit,
Yeah.
And I just feel like this whole book really, I haven't enjoyed how it has helped me personally within my own family, but like my brothers and sisters, and like help me understand like why we're the way we are and why my in-laws are the way they are. And it gives me more grace with them and my own personal family too, which, because I can be more removed from like, or it's easier to remove ourselves and think about what people are going through when it's not the people you're with all the time. Like, why is it that way? But it is like, you're the harshest critics with the people, your own siblings or your parents or whatever. And I feel like this time around reading it again, because I had read it before also, it's helped me to like even hone in even closer to the people that I'm surrounded by.
Yeah. I think it's because the people that you're the closest to, oftentimes you know them really well. So you think like for example, for me, if there's somebody that's really struggling, I'm like, oh, they must have something hard going on. But the more you know somebody, you're like, you have no reason to feel that way. Like,
we had the same experiences.
I know you, And so it's like, for me, that's totally true. It's harder for me to be empathetic and kind. Not that I'm not mean, but it's,
no, I totally agree.
You don't offer as easy of grace, I think, sometimes with those that are super.
Yeah.
There's just so much more knowledge of their life.
Yeah.
And so it's like sadly, that I feel like that brings out a little extra judgment, because instead of just being like, oh, who knows what they've, experienced, it's just like, I don't know, you feel like you have the right to judge because you know them.
Exactly. That's
right.
And I like, Janny, you were saying, unless you're practicing something daily, it's like it's going to be hard for it to sink in. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was the guy who wrote the book The Secret, who's like now in his 80s, and it was like it was a great podcast just listening to him talk about his philosophies for life. And one of the things he said that I thought was so interesting was he was saying the biggest mistake he thinks most people learn or make in self-development is that we don't have repetition. He's like, you read one book once and then you move on and you never revisit it again. He's like, how is that supposed to stick in your mind and become part of your life if you read a book once that you really related to? And he's like, my favorite books, I've read them, I don't even know how many times. And I just really thought, that is such a good point. Like, I practice the same scales over and over again and play the same pieces over and over again, yet I feel like I can read a book and then just internalize like all of this once. So
right.
I thought that was really
because there's so many books out there. You're like, oh, I gotta read them all.
I know.
Yeah. You're kind of like, well, what's next? I do want to read them all.
Yeah.
Okay, so why do you guys think parenting in particular is such a minefield for shame? Because I think it is one of the biggest ways that just a lot of my friends and that are moms, and I feel like, and even Brene said that earlier in the book, that like women's big ways of shame triggers are oftentimes body image and motherhood. So why do you think parenting has such a minefield for shame?
I think one of the reasons is because it's one of the places that you can have the most impact, whether positive or negative, on someone else's life. And so no one wants to screw up being a parent. Like, no one wants to fail at it or not do it well. And I think also there's so much woulda, shoulda, couldas around parenting that cultures create and society creates, that everybody's trying to be enough.
Right.
They're all trying to be enough, and it just creates feelings of shame a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna say. It's kind of like there's an expectation, from yourself, what you're gonna be like as a mom. And I feel like it also comes from like years and years prior, right? Like you're always thinking, oh, when I'm a mom, I'm going to do this. And when I'm a mom, this is going to be how it's going to go. And then you just kind of come to reality and it's like, wow, this is not going how I thought it would be, And so
no one prepares you for it.
Exactly. So I feel like there's this expectation that a lot of times when we expect things from ourselves, it's a little bit easier to control if it's just within our own, right? Like, oh, I expect myself to be a good student. If I work hard enough, it'll work, right? But when a little one is in the mix and everything else, a lot of your expectations kind of change and get thrown off, right? And so I feel like it's a little hard because your expectations are always being changed and you just kind of have to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
There's just so many variables and
Unknown,
things that you don't know and you can't plan for. And I also think that we all see other people parent. We were parented at one point, like we all have experience in this realm, like this, whereas like, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on microphysics because I've never been in that realm, I've never touched on that at all. But like with parenting, we've all seen it. We all have opinions on it because we've all been around it or seen it happening, whether it was us as an individual or we saw somebody else do it. And so I feel like we all have opinions that we've gained throughout our life because we've been surrounded by it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's like we've seen it so much and been exposed to it so much, but yet we've never, like, there's no way you can be taught how to parent. There's no manual for it, and you have to learn in real time. Like, yeah, you have to learn in real time.
And it's changing constantly because you have, especially like one thing that works for one kid is not going to work for the other kid. It's not going to work for the other one, and then it's just a battlefield of unknowns. You have multiple complex human beings involved,
Yeah.
My favorite is when people will be like, I promised myself I would never be this parent. And here I am. Like, I have a friend who's like, I would never be the parent who had kids' toys all over their backyard. And she's like, took a picture of her backyard and there's kids' toys everywhere. Like we make these, expectations for ourselves really early on. And we aren't in the arena doing it, like we're not experiencing it when we're making these opinions. And so then our expectations are off. And then we have people, what's hard for me, like one of the most shame-filled moments I've ever had in my entire life was around parenting. And it was when my I hope they're not listening, but whatever. They all know it happened, so it's okay. My in-laws, two of which didn't have kids, and then my father-in-law were talking about my parenting, and like I hear it was just like the most devastating thing. And so anyways, did I freeze? I think I froze. But it's like they don't even have kids, so they shouldn't be able to talk, anyways.
Right. Everybody has an opinion, and I like that someone, where did it go? Hungry Melon Neater said 10 kids, 10 methods.
Yep.
Can someone read, it's in the middle of the page, 216, who we are. It's the last paragraph or last sentence in second paragraph. Someone read that?
I can read it.
Thank you.
Who we are and how we engage with the world are much stronger predictors of how our children will do than what we know about parenting.
Yeah. She also says, are you parenting the right way is as important or is more important. Sorry, I'm reading it wrong. The question isn't so much, are you parenting the right way, as it is, are you the adult that you want your children to grow up to be? So how does that make you guys feel when you hear that?
They walk the walk, not just talk the talk, or is that the phrase?
It's like we kind of talked about it with Mind the Gap. Like that's that whole philosophy. Like,
can you describe Mind the Gap one more time?
Sure. Yeah. So Mind the Gap is like you have your practice values, so the things that you are doing, and then you have your ideal. I can't remember what Brene Brown calls them, but the ideal values. And so the gap is what you actually do and what you're aiming to do. And so I think the whole purpose of life is that we're trying to close that gap as we become better people, right? As we are trying to improve, grow, and develop. But as you parent, as we all know, or as we're human beings, there's always that gap. And so Mind the Gap is just saying, be aware if you're preaching this, but you're doing this, you need to mind the gap. And of course you're striving to do this, but mind that gap, because a parent that's teaching their kids, like, an example of the book they were talking about, a parent that was like telling their teens, like, I don't want you going out partying and drinking, but yet whenever they're with their buddies, they always talk about the good old days when they were teenagers going off and partying and drinking. There's a gap there, and it's a mixed message that you're sharing with your kids. So Mind the Gap is just that whole thing. It's like being aware of try to practice what you preach, do your very best. And of course, no one's perfect. And so minding that helps.
Yes. Also, another interesting question is, we're talking about minding the gap, and how can sometimes what we know get in the way of teaching through who we are? Like, she says over and over again that it's more important to, teach through who you are versus what you know. So how can the two kind of get in each other's way sometimes?
I mean, I underline this a lot because, so one of the things that I've been trying to be really sensitive to and aware of in my life is I state all the time, I know how important feelings and emotions are and that they just are. Like, I'm very well aware of that. And I acknowledge it in myself. But it's really hard when you're looking at a 5-year-old who's freaking out because she wants to wear her tutu that has chocolate all over it and it's in the washer and she can't wear it to school. And you're just like, it's like, you have to leave and she's freaking out. And it's really hard in those moments to not be like, just get out of the car, like, and totally dismiss the feelings and emotions that they're having. So for me, it's like what I know, which is like, again, the whole feelings are valid and are important. I know that for myself, but it's really hard to parent to do that, because when you have a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old that's freaking out that the leprechaun's going to break into his house and he won't go to sleep at night, and you're exhausted and all you want to do is go to sleep, you just like want to be like, it's not real, get over it, right? Like you just want to freak out, but it's like, no, he's actually really scared. Like we need to validate that. So
yeah,
it's really hard. And that's just one example. Think about the 50 billion other examples that are out there of what we know, and then
Yeah, and it's interesting how sometimes they do, I feel like, conflict with each other, almost like the trying to be what you know you need to be, and then what you know. I really liked on page 218, there was a quote. She says, by pushing away vulnerability, it's the second paragraph. By pushing away vulnerability, we turn parenting into a competition that's about knowing, proving, executing, and measuring rather than being. If we put aside the question of who's better and put down the yardstick, it just talks about how much better it will be if we put down that comparison and that gap that we sometimes get so focused on. And I had a thought, like I said, I'm not a mom, but I think one of the most interesting experiences where I felt this was when I was on my mission. And on the mission, they call you, when you are a trainer, they basically call you, you're like the mom of this new trainee. They call them greenies. It's a brand new missionary that's coming out, and if you're assigned a brand new missionary, they joke that you're their mom, because you train them and you teach them the ways of the mission. And I remember the first time that I was going to train, I was so excited, and I was so ready to be the best trainer ever. I wanted everyone to know that my little daughter on the mission was going to be super obedient and super strong, and we were just going to kill it. I was so excited to share everything that I knew. And my companion comes out, and I remember we had a really hard time together at first, because I was focusing so much on what I knew that I wasn't paying attention to what she needed. And the fact of the matter is that she came out so prepared that it almost hurt my feelings, because she didn't really need to learn a lot of the things I had worked so hard to be ready to teach her. And if I had just been like, oh wow, she knows all this, I can just be here to support her and be here to comfort her when she's scared, or when that's what she needed. She didn't need to learn the rules. She had learned those already. And I was just so focused on trying to make sure that I was the teacher. And I completely missed the opportunity to be a nurturer, which is the kind of relationship that she needed, because I was so focused on what I knew rather than who I needed to be. And so I think sometimes the two can directly conflict with each other. And that's probably, I don't know, that was probably my closest experience to being a parent.
No, that's a really good example. And I think that's that's pretty key, because you can get in your own way of being what your kid needs, or what in your example,
friend, or a coworker. And it for me, it stemmed from, in that experience I learned later, that was totally pride. It was that I wanted to be the best teacher. It wasn't about helping her the best. It was I wanted to be the best trainer ever. Which I think came from a good place, I thought, in my immaturity. So it wasn't like I was making bad decisions, but it was from a place of pride. I later learned. Let's see,
but you trained a few more people, and it all worked out great.
I definitely learned from that experience. And then the last companion I had was Caitlin, who I trained in my last. And I
was the perfect missionary because of it. So
I believe it.
Oh, she was. Caitlin was a dream come true. Mr. Wadsworth.
I know, everyone. Sorry, this is my dog. I can see people asking, oh, you knocked off my headphones. Oh, you're so sweet.
Dang. I've got Luna under a blanket on my lap.
Aww.
I know, people were like, what? Does Lindsay have a blanket in her?
Oh, yeah. That's Luna under this blanket.
Mm-hmm.
So I like this, what she goes into at the bottom of page 216. So the last 4 lines, can someone read our stories of worthiness and read the whole rest of that paragraph?
I'll read it. Our stories of worthiness, of being enough, begin in our first families. The narrative certainly doesn't end there, but what we learn about ourselves and how we learn to engage with the world as children sets a course that either will require us to spend a significant part of our life fighting to reclaim our self-worth, or will give us hope, courage, and resilience for our journey.
This is why families are so important.
Go on,
This is
Tammy.
why I'm like so passionate about this. I was just talking about this today with somebody. Like we were talking about the homeless crisis that's taken place in California and in Seattle and some of these other places. And they were asking, you know, my thought processes and opinions on it. And I'm like, there are three things that we need to focus on. One, always is going to be strengthening the family unit. Always. Like that is so crucial because it is a microcosm for growth and development and learning. And I love, like that quote is so crucial. And then the second is doing better mental health services and trauma-informed care. But those three things, and addiction is the other one. But that's why families are so crucial. And the reality is that not everyone has an ideal family situation. And so that's when we step in and provide mentors and caring adults and other, you know, programs. But the family unit is so crucial in developing who we become. It's so crucial. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, this is really powerful advice to parents, obviously, like, you know, kind of that reminder of like, oh my gosh, the narrative you create in your family is going to really determine how these children are going to engage with the world in the future. I like that it says, you know, it will either require us spending a significant part of our life fighting to reclaim our self-worth, or will give us hope and courage and resilience for the journey. So it's kind of set you up, not like dictate your life, but it's setting you up for one or the other. And so how can this also be beneficial for us to learn as people who were raised by imperfect parents? Like no parent is perfect. So how can this be helpful for like whether you're a parent or whether, you know, you're thinking about it for where you're at now?
I know for me, like one of the biggest things that I try to reiterate over and over and over again to my kids is that I'm learning. I'm still learning. I tell like my oldest, I've never been a mom to a 9-year-old Abigail before. And so I don't know how to do everything. Like, and I think like there are times, a lot of times that I make mistakes and I do things wrong. So I go back and I apologize and I reiterate the fact that I'm still learning and I'm still growing and ask for forgiveness. And the same with my other kids. It's like, if we can show them that we are still like, we're not perfect, then hopefully they can have compassion and empathy on them on when they become a parent, because we're all just learning. Like we're all still learning and growing. And
she talks about, sorry to cut you off, but the whole, like my grandma didn't know not to have me in a car seat, you know, like she talks, Brene mentions that, you know, she used to stand next to her grandma as she drove, you know, and like, but she just didn't have the information at that time. And I think it allows, I don't know, recognizing that this, you know, we come from imperfect parents and, you know, we all are the way we are for different reasons, but it allows us to have grace for people because they were at a different point in their life. And just like we have ask our children to have grace with us, we have to have that same grace for the people who parented us.
Yeah, it makes you less judgmental of yourself as a parent and then of others as parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that, Vivian, because it's like if you want to be less judgmental on yourself, you have to like learn to give grace to the people that were in your shoes before. I really liked this that was sent into the email. It's from Lauren. And she said, I have to be honest, when I read the title of this chapter, I was like, I'm not a parent. I'm not sure what I can get out of it, but I'll read it anyway. But then I got to thinking, I may not be a parent, but I was raised by a parent. And I know that that my life is full of screw ups from my parents. I always told myself when I become a mom, I won't be anything like mine. Looking back now, I know that she did the best she could with all she had. My mom battled with depression, but as little kids, you don't know what that means. And now I understand. I thought that was really sweet. Just like, kind of like what you were saying earlier, Caitlin. It's like, we all say like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be that. But, you know, kind of realizing that we all came from imperfect people and we are imperfect. It kind of gives you a little bit of grace and understanding. So I really liked that. There was a list on page 218. She said, if wholeheartedness is the goal, then above all, we should strive to raise children who, and I thought this would be a good list to read. So does somebody want to read said list? Caitlin, will you read the list?
Yeah. The goal, let's see, above all else, we should strive to raise children who engage with the world from a place of worthiness, embrace their vulnerabilities and imperfections, feel a deep sense of love and compassion for themselves and others, value hard work, perseverance, and respect, carry a sense of authenticity and belonging with them rather than searching for it in external places, have the courage to be imperfect, vulnerable, and creative, don't fear feeling ashamed or unlovable if they are different or if they are struggling, move through our rapidly changing world with courage and a resilient spirit.
Thank you. So if, like Jenny mentioned earlier, not all of us in the world have the opportunity to be in homes that have all these values or that teach all these things. Like, this is basically describing the perfect parent, but, not everybody has even ideal parents, or ideal home situations. So if we don't come from that situation that models these, how can we find these experiences?
I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to people that I don't know. I think of the phrase like, because I haven't been given much, I too must give. Like, I grew up in a pretty good, pretty great situation, not perfect and not great always, but I just feel like when we are safe, like provide safe places for other people. Like, for example, if you know that there are, kids in your neighborhood that don't have safe spaces, be that safe space in your home for them. Or if you have teens that, are struggling, be that safe space where they can call you. Like, take, mentoring people and reaching out to those in need. And even like, as adults, like, you may have friends that didn't come from safe spaces and they don't even know what that looks like or means. And again, being that for other people, I think is so important because so many people don't have that. In fact, I would venture to say that more than not, most people don't have that. Right. And, taking that on, be a mentor to people, like mentor them and show them
what's possible.
Yeah. Be kind and loving and make them believe who they are. That's the biggest thing, is if you can help them see who they really are and the potential that they have, that's the best gift you can ever give anyone.
Yeah.
Believe in them.
She says also at the bottom of page 219, compassion and connection, the very thing that gives purpose and meaning to our lives, can only be learned if they are experienced. So I think, with that being said, if not everybody has the ideal family situation, it is so important to try to find these experiences. And I think, like Danny mentioned, it's so important for those of us that do feel like we have things to give, to mentor, to, to gather together in situations even like this, or to find communities. And if you find yourself being the one that needs the help, there's a lot of there's church organizations where we can find comfort. Like, I know that my church community growing up was so strong, and it was a place that outside of my own home, like, thank heavens I did have a really good home, but it was a place where I also could feel safe. And it was a place, and I think there are so many places that we can go to find comfort. Or I remember a lot of friends would spend hours at my house when I was a kid, because maybe that was a place they felt safe and connected. So like Jenny said, reaching out to people and offering, but also reaching out and trying to find, which I know is really scary and uncomfortable, but there are places. Can you guys think of anything else? What came to my mind was like church communities or friends' homes or online communities, but yeah.
No, yeah, I was going to say somebody actually wrote there, and I forgot to write their name down, but it said that that's why they say friends are family that we choose, right?
Mm.
So maybe a lot of the people that haven't found that love or care within their families, they can find friends that can give that to them, right? And that can be their family, because I mean, we're all here to love one another and to find our own families, if
Yeah.
So
I like that. Friends are family that we choose.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure all of you here probably had a million kids at your house, like, like that just showed up. Like, I can think of, there's 9 of us, 9 kids. So our house was pure chaos, so often. But we always had random kids that would like come in, open our fridge, be sitting down. I'm all, what are you doing here? My brother's not here. And like, I can think of this one friend that came from a situation where it was pretty rough situation. Dad was in jail for doing horrific things to sister, and mom was working all the time. Just really rough situation. And he literally said that he would have probably ended up in prison or jail if he didn't spend his time at our home. And he's now a professor at Carnegie Mellon. Like, he never planned on going to college. He never planned on, and he just said it was the fact that I felt loved in your home. And
what do you think it was about your home that made that environment?
I honestly think it's because we let him be him. Like, it was not let him be him, but it was like he knew that there were boundaries. So like there were like my parents cared enough about us to discipline us, to have rules, and we had a lot of fun together, like doing the stupidest things. It was not like we did anything grandiose or anything. It was just like my parents were present and they showed that they cared.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't any like magic thing or anything. I think it was just like the fact that they were safe. We weren't harmed. We had food and shelter and clothes, and they cared, and and that was one kid. I can think of a handful of others, but he said I probably would have ended up in jail. In fact, he purposely failed high school twice, his senior year twice, so he could stay with my brother and be in his same grade, because my brother was young. But eventually he went on and got his degree, and like I said, got his master's, and now he's a professor at Carnegie Mellon. I think it's a pretty awesome success story. But
that's amazing.
It shows that being a safe space and showing love to people it can change everything.
Absolutely. And isn't it interesting? I remember being very surprised when I worked at a treatment center for troubled teenage girls that lived at these residential centers. And I remember being shocked when but then I was like, I guess that's not surprising. It makes sense. But the girls wanted boundaries. They acted like they didn't. They acted like they wanted to do whatever they wanted to do, and they wanted to eat what they wanted to eat, and they wanted like to go when they wanted to go, but we had strict rules at this place, and the counselors that kind of would let the girls get away with stuff, they're trying to be cool, those were not the counselors that the girls really got close to. They wanted boundaries. They wanted someone to make them feel like not only they cared, and so they were willing to hold these boundaries, but also it made them feel safe. And so, to be like a place that's like all inclusive and welcoming isn't like, Mean Girl's mom, where she's like, I'm not your regular mom, I'm your cool mom. Like, a place where people do really want to come, and is a place that has rules and has boundaries and consequences, but also is like full of love. And, I just, thank you, Jenny, for sharing that. Let's see, page 220. Can someone read Understanding and Combating Shame? That first 3 sentences under that. Vivian.
Okay. You tell me when to stop. But it's a terrible myth to believe that once we have children, our journey ends and theirs begins. For many of us, the most interesting and productive times in our lives come after we have children. For the majority of us, the greatest challenges and struggles also come in the midlife and later. Wholehearted parenting is not having it all figured out and passing it down. It's learning and exploring together.
Awesome.
And trust me.
Oh, that's perfect. By the way, before we move on, Deacon says, my most strict teacher this year is by far my most favorite. I love that. And it made me think when I read that like school is a great place. If you don't feel like you have a place where you feel comfortable or safe, like either friends at school or also teachers. Like my dad was a high school teacher, and he said that like multiple students would come in his lunch hour and sit and eat lunch with him because it was a place that they felt safe, and it was, you know, a place where they could feel that connection, and that, you know, and I thought that was really sweet. So that's a really good point, that there are places to find connection, even if we don't feel like we get them from our parents or our home. And I just encourage you, if you find yourself in that kind of feeling, that to reach out. Like, and I love the community of, you know, the Stirlingites, and on Discord, it is a place where I think people feel safe. And, you know, but I encourage you to find multiple places where you can have that connection. Okay, so going back to what you just read, says it's a terrible myth of believing that once we have children, our journey ends and theirs begins. So you guys all have had children. What do you feel happened to your life when you became a mom? Like, I know you don't feel like your journey ended and theirs began. Like, how would you describe it?
I would probably want to hear, from you girls, because I feel like I kind of had this myth. Like, this really like kind of spoke to me, because in a lot of ways, like we said before, I'm very cautious, I'm very like safe. And I think with it comes a sense of like, now, like, this is my calling and that's all I'm going to do. And like my life, my hobbies, what I like to do, everything is kind of like put down the burner. And now this is my life. And I think it's very unhealthy for both of us, because I am still an individual that has their likes and that has a personality. And now I just need to learn to balance, right? Mm. And so I would love to hear from the other moms.
Well, I was just going to say that I don't remember when it happened, but at some point growing up, I remember having a moment where I thought about how my mom and I were on the same journey. Like, I believe that we're children of God, and like we are doing the same, you know, journey of life together. And I remember being like, whoa, like, you know, we're in the same boat, really, you know, doing the same thing. And so when I had my own kids, I love thinking about like us going on a, like, I don't know, I get like these mental or pictures in my head where like we're literally going on a journey together, and we have to make this long, you know, take this long hike, and what am I going to put in my pack and make sure they have in their pack too. And like, just thinking about us doing this together rather than like, I'm done and I'm going to watch you do it. You know, it makes it a lot, I don't know, it just helps me feel more excited to do what I'm doing, because I'm doing it along with them. But also kind of answering your question, Vivian, like I want my kids I want to be the kind of person I want my kids to be. And so part of that is I want them to know that when they are adults, that they still can have dreams and hopes. And I want them to see me doing hard things. And so rather than just being there to support them doing hard things, I want them to see me doing it and then say, I can do it because I saw my mom do it, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah,
yes, 100%.
I see kind of two different things. So the first one is I think each of my kids have been placed in my life because they're exactly what I needed at that time and need at this time to learn and grow. They're like the perfect, they're teaching me everything that I need to know. Like, and so one of the things that I have a bracelet that says embrace the process, because it is a process. Like, parenting is a process of learning, growing, and developing and changing over and over and over again. And so like, I recognize that they're the perfect teaching tool for me, and that creates motivation. so there's like that aspect, but again, to like Vivian, your point, like, this is like, I have like a total inner conflict because I'm somebody that is extremely self-motivated and has big dreams and ambitions and desires. And it's interesting because I feel guided and directed to pursue those, even though I have 5 little kids that need their mom. So, and then I have the outside world in my mind telling me that I'm being selfish for pursuing a lot of the things that I want to pursue. I guess maybe some shame triggers. And so I've had to like come to the realization that everyone's journey is very unique. And so there are some parents out there that they feel like very compelled and called to maybe put some of those things on the back burner for a time, like a time and season. And then there's others that feel like, no, like this is what I'm meant to do. And your kids are going to learn along with you. So I think it's just being really in tune to what you're meant to be doing in your process and journey of life.
Yeah.
So it's funny because I just applied for grad school. I think you guys heard this. I put in my application, so kind of crazy. And in my personal statement, they asked me why this particular university and this particular program. They wanted me to type why, and I said, it's funny because I said, this program is perfect for me because I have 5 little kids that the flexibility of this program allows me to be a mom, to give them the proper care and love that they need and deserve. And so I just don't feel like it's always one or the other. Like I feel like there is a way to do both, but everyone's going to tell you you're doing it wrong. That's what it comes down to. Like everyone is going to come in and tell, like I have so much shame about being a working mom at times, but then you get shamed when you're not a working mom. Like but it's all about your individual journey and what are you here for? What is your mission and purpose? Why are you here? And your kids are part of that. And you learn and grow together, but it's finding the right time and place and season. That was really long-winded, but
no. Thank you, because both of you made really good points. And I think that has been my struggle because, as you know, I am also like, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to try this and that. And I think it was a struggle at first because I guess I just couldn't balance it, and I would also feel the shame whenever I would do something for myself. I'd be like, oh no, but I should be doing this, And so I think it's important to note that you can be, well, actually, she said it here. It says, if we want our children to love and accept who they are, our job is to love and accept who we are. And so with that comes your dreams, your, what you want to do with your life too as an individual. So.
Yes. And I think that we were raised in a generation where it was very much, people were not encouraged to leave the home. And so I think that's part of where, like, 'cause I've always been very like, oh my gosh, when I become a mom, that is going to be such a hard balance. And I just can't even imagine the amount of shame. But I think a lot of it comes from the fact that we kind of were raised where it was supposed to be done this way. And now there are so many different ways it can be done and that it is done. So anyways, I applaud you all.
And it's different. It truly is different. Like that's the biggest thing. Like I want to share, like I remember one time driving in a car with a good friend, and all of us in the car were full-time. Like we all worked full-time in different situations. So like I worked from home full-time, and she, after the ladies got out of the car, and she says, I feel like really bad that I don't work. And I'm like, do you feel like you're supposed to? And she's all, no. I'm like, then who gives a crap? Why would you feel like, because like it's like you feel, and then in other situations, like you might feel differently. And so I just think like everyone's journey is so different. That's why the judgment has to be pushed aside. And I think with parenting, it's like the hardest one because everyone has opinions on how it should be done and how you should do it and what like, you must be neglecting your kids, because if I worked full time, there's no way that I could pay attention to my children. Okay, well, you don't know me, number one. And if you knew me, you would know that I like have energy up to here, and that's not a struggle that I face, you know. But it's like everyone's journey is so unique and different. Just because if you were in my circumstances and situations that you may not be able to do it, that doesn't mean that I'm not able to do it, and vice versa, you know?
Yes, I think one of the hard things also about like parenting is that, you know, we talk all the time in this book in particular about the arena. And so like you shouldn't take any criticism from the critic in the stands. However, in parenting, you're like, but they're in the arena too. But I think it's important to realize they are in their arena. You are in yours. Like, you are not living in the same house with the same kids in the same situation. Like, and so you have to kind of also remember that, like, we are not in the same arena. While we're all in this together and we're all like, you know, fighting our own fight, you know, you have to realize, just like, you know, Janny was saying so well, that like, do what you feel you're supposed to do. Like, and only your intuition can tell you that. And, you know, your relationship with your family or God or whatever it is that guides you. Let's see, at the bottom of 220, the last paragraph. Does anyone want to read that? The important thing?
I had it underlined. The important thing to know about worthiness is that it doesn't have prerequisites. Wow. Keep going.
Yeah, one more sentence.
Most of us, on the other hand, have a long list of prerequisites, qualifiers that we've inherited, learned, and unknowingly picked up along the way.
Woo, woo. Yeah, and then later she says, shame loves prerequisites. So Taryn emailed in and he asked, maybe in the stream you and your friends could talk about some suggestions for how we can better believe we are worthy of love and belonging in order to feel it better. Sometimes it's hard to separate ourselves from the if-then prerequisites. Going back to the experienced map maker and the stumbling traveler metaphor, I look at other people as worthy of love and belonging without the prerequisites, but often hold myself accountable for the prerequisites. With this world, it's hard not to think in terms of qualifications for being loved. So the original question was, can we talk about some suggestions of how we can better believe we are worthy of love and belonging without the prerequisites?
I just want Taryn to see this. Oh, it says, how do we do this? Question mark.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to I don't know.
Thinking, I don't know. Having a eternal perspective and like pulling ourselves out of situations helps me a lot. And to think about like, what are people's motivation? What is my motivation? And I don't know, sometimes that helps me be like, okay.
So the question, go ahead. Sorry, Caitlin. So the question was, how can we feel like we're worthy of love and belonging without prerequisites?
Yeah, like basically like, yeah, pretty much. Like he's just saying it's so hard to like, you know, he's like, I'm able to give that love to other people and see them without the prerequisites, like people that he loves and cares about. But it's hard to sometimes see myself because the world relies on qualifiers to make us feel good about ourselves. Like whether it's like beauty or success or fame or this or their work or they don't work or they're a good mom or they feel like they're a bad mom. Like the world judges like all by qualifiers and prerequisites. And that's where shame comes in because it loves that. So how do we love ourselves and actually get past like these prerequisites?
I think it's a lifelong journey. I think, so you guys all know I'm obsessed with Mr. Rogers, like just absolutely love him. And I think I shared this with you guys. So there's a documentary that is about him. And after I watched it, I like bawled my eyes out because there was this feeling that was portrayed through the way he interacted with other people that was so unconditional. Like there was such an unconditional love about him. And it took me a couple of weeks to figure out, why did I cry so hard? And I came to the realization that it was because it was a feeling that I felt that I had always known, but had forgotten. And ultimately, because of my faith and my beliefs and my values, I realized that it was a love that I probably had once felt, an unconditional love from above. And it was like I was getting a taste of it here on this earth. And I think that's why we always have to work towards getting to the point of feeling that love unconditional, because it's something that we can remember, but we don't experience it here on earth. And so we long for it, and we're searching for it, and we're trying to get it. But it's not so much in reach because the world is full of imperfect people. But I think we can, for me, like, it's come through, and I still don't, I like can speak it, but to get to speak it and to fully believe it, it's like a daily practice. But I have felt it when I've held a new baby. I have felt it when I see people in struggle, or on the streets. I feel that. Sorry, I'm getting so emotional, but I feel that unconditional love that God has for them, and so I feel it for myself, because if He feels that way for me, and it must feel that way for other people. But I think it's a lifelong journey that we have to take, because it's something we remember from above, but it's not so attainable here. I don't know. Maybe that's spooky.
That was beautiful. And I was thinking kind of something similar, like, for Taryn, saying that you can see this in other people, but you have a hard time seeing it in yourself. That's the first step. Like, I think that it's, like Janie said, a lifelong process to, like, transcend the world's opinions and transcend own insecurities. Like, that's something that we have to work on for the rest of our lives, and we'll just continue to get better at it. But I think a huge step is being able to see others through eyes of love and non-judgment. Like, a lot of people struggle with that. And if you struggle with that, that's where you should start. You should start by trying to see others without judgment and seeing others without qualifiers and love. And then the next step is to then try to relate it like a mirror back to yourself. Like Jenny said, if these people are lovable, and like walk your brain through that process. Our brains are amazing, and they connect information. So if you help it connect, your mind will start to recognize these things. I don't know. That's how my brain works anyway. But that's why I like reading self-help books. That's why I love listening to podcasts, like Lewis Howes podcasts and Joe Dispenza. And like, I love listening and reading to this kind of thing, because that's the only way that I kind of start to remember it on a daily basis. And when I stop, it starts to go away. So for me, it's just really, I notice a huge difference when I'm surrounding myself with these topics. And my roommate will say, like, while I'm cleaning or like walking around or doing my makeup, I have my phone attached to my body and I'm listening to a podcast. Like, I realize that really helps me kind of ingrain these topics into my mind and start to believe them.
Well, you're adding things that help you have a good perspective, but also I think getting rid of things that make you feel bad about yourself or make you feel like, I will go through my Instagram every once in a while and I will just erase things that I'm like, this isn't working for me. This doesn't make me feel better about myself. This doesn't embrace the goodness of like diversity and, uniqueness. And I think, finding ways to rid yourself of as much of that negativity too, or yes, negative self-talk, whatever makes you reflect negatively on yourself, be gone.
Yeah, and I would say that, like you said, Lindsay, that person that wrote in, I feel like they are halfway there, because obviously they're able to see it in other people because they can see their worth outside of all these pre-qualifiers, right? Mm-hmm. And so they can do that, then it's just a matter of seeing their worth as well outside of whatever is expected of them.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. All such good points. Thank you, guys. I was like, I don't know how we'll answer this, but that was amazing. I loved all the different perspectives. And Caitlin, that's really cool, the whole idea that like cutting out stuff. It's not just about adding things to your life, it's about cutting out things. And if you stop and listen to yourself and your emotions, like I really liked someone said that you should pray every day, or just suggested every day in your prayers, asking the question, what is it that I am doing that I should stop doing? And what am I not doing that I should start doing? And just saying that was a really good question to ask and then listen. And by doing that, not only am I making space for some some guidance from my spirituality and from God to help guide me, but I'm also leaving space for my mind to reflect and say, what is in my life that shouldn't be? Like this week, I actually put a timer on my Instagram. It times me out at a certain time because it wasn't good for me. Anyway, so I really like that point. Okay. Page 2. Here, I'm going to actually pause for a second and call out some of my fan peeps for subscribing and joining and following and all the things. So here we go. Okay. Jimmy Slaughter subscribed with Prime. Andy Bro subscribed with Prime as well. Epic to Sound subscribed. Silver Wolf 2020 subscribed for 2 months. Woo woo. College 243 subscribed. Champ 2910 subscribed. A key bout. You 808 subscribed for 6 months. Wow, thank you. USAF Bioman gave out 5 subscriptions. Thank you. Benji gifted a sub. Thank you, Benji, one of our moderators. Martin subscribed for 3 months. Red Jedi 360 gave out a sub. MK Freak 22 cheered 300 biddies. Margot Sheeran cheered 100 biddies. Red Jedi cheered 100 biddies. USAF Bioman gave out 5 subscriptions. Thank you so much. So generous. Analog Kid 75 subscribed. Samson the Cat cheered 1,000 biddies. Thank you so much, Samson. Nick Sheveko gave out a sub. Anonymous Gifter gave out 3. A 3-month tier 1 sub. Thank you so much. Emmy Star 1219 cheered. Emmy Star gave out a sub. Timid Night subscribed with Prime. Taylor Swifty subscribed for 2 months. PTA Sterling gave out 5 subscriptions, and USAF Bioman gave out 10 subscriptions. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, everybody, for all your subscriptions. Again, all the profits that are made from my Twitch are going to the Upside Fund, which help people from our own community, our own fan community, with paying medical bills and paying other bills that they cannot afford, mostly due to medical problems. If you, Lindsay, do you know the email address, Lindsay Fish? Anyways, you can go to the Upside Fund and ask to receive funds. You can also go there to donate funds. And anyway, so it's a pretty cool thing that we've been doing as a fan community that I love. And also, by subscribing, you get to be a part of the subs only section of the Discord. I go on there and chat every week, at least once or twice. So that's been fun. You also get these cute little emojis that everybody's using that are little Lindsay emojis. Also, join the Discord you just put the Discord link. So join the Discord if you like. Anybody can join it. And okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for being here, for joining, for participating. Okay, so everybody stretch, take a moment to...
I think you need to tell us a funny story.
Me tell you a funny story? Let me think of like a funny story.
No, I'm trying to think of any.
I was thinking of a funny story because maybe this is, well, I guess a similar story is in your book, so it can't be too bad, but we tried to go... As roommates tried to go skinny dipping.
In college?
But yes, but I got so scared, because when we got there was an animal that I could not see, but sounded like a cow. And I'm like, if I can't see a cow that's right there, then there could be people there. So I'm like, I'm not doing this. I can't even do it. And it was like, wah, wah. Then fast forward,
where was it at? At a lake or something? Or
it was Mona, which was 45 minutes south of Provo.
They have the cool swing that you Yeah.
FYI, anyone who's listening, we all went to college together, and there was a place called Mona where, I don't know, I feel like it had a cool rope swing, but I think that's where anybody that wanted to go skinny dipping would like go there in the middle of the night. It was, I don't know.
I don't even know why.
Was it like a lake or
it was like a pond, like a large pond.
Yeah, man-made probably.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until like years later when I came to my now husband's house for the same time. I got out of the car and I heard the same noise, the cow noise.
Was it a frog?
And he said it was a bullfrog. And it sounded like a cow.
They knew in the chat. People are like, bullfrog? Bullfrog?
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
I was like, you don't even know how long I've been haunted by this.
So did you do it or no?
I did.
Did Lindsay just go by herself?
Well, there was a couple.
There was a handle.
There was a couple of us. And I remember I was like, we did not drive 45 minutes in the middle of the night because, like, we always wanted to go when nobody would catch us.
No. But it was funny because at that point we were all like, this is so dumb. And you guys were like, paddle. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, we literally got in for like, just basically to get wet and say we did it. And we're like, okay, let's go.
Yep. I was on lookout for the cow the whole time. I was like, don't worry.
Protect us.
I'll make sure.
It's so funny because you hear about like the hot springs and things like that. I feel like everyone has a story from those,
And yet we went to a pond called Mona. Like, we didn't even go to like the cool hot springs. I also love how, like, I don't know, I didn't realize it at the time, how like innocently naive we all were. Like the fact that we were like, don't look at me, like as we like got into the water and like we're there for like 2 seconds and like got our towels, like even around like our best friends, we're like, don't look, like it cracks me up. Yes, that was a good story.
Those hot springs are dangerous though. I remember going on a date and it is now my spouse, but he wasn't, and we get there and everyone was like butt naked. And I was like, you're so uncomfortable because you're with a guy that like you are just on a date with. But anyway, so we went to another side where there weren't, and I went in there and I was like allergic to it. So I got hives everywhere.
That was my biggest worry. I always said no to everyone that would invite me to the hot springs because I was worried I would have like a weird reaction.
I totally did. And I remember like having to like go home and sit in the bathtub, like, get this off of me.
Oh my gosh. That's I don't know so what funny. I never wanted to go to the hot springs because I saw Dante's Peak when I was like a young teenager. And do you guys ever see Dante's Peak?
No, what is it?
It's about a volcano that erupts, and anyways, there's a couple that gets like cooked alive in the hot springs because like the volcano was starting to like. So I was like, no, I'm gonna get roasted, boiled to a crisp.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, all right, let's dive back in. Okay, page 222. So. I used to think, I don't know, when I was like a teenager, I used to think that perfectionism was like kind of a good thing. I really genuinely thought that because it meant that you were like gonna work really hard to be good. But how is it counterintuitive? How is it actually a bad thing for us and for children?
It's another font of prerequisites.
Yeah.
It's teaching them to value what other people think over what they think or how they feel. Thanks, Brene.
Yeah. Thank you, Brene. Yeah, it teaches them to perform, please, and prove, rather than, and value, like you said, what Brene said, what other people think. I also think it's interesting that she says it's not about striving for excellence to be your best self. It's just about like making an outward appearance.
That word prove, like makes me so, I don't know, like think about what your motivation is. If you're doing it to just prove someone wrong or prove that you can do it to like why does that person have that much control over you? Like, why is that your motivation? You should do something because you want to do it. Like it makes you happy and it's going to better you.
And in control, like you can never like it's like we talked about this, like with impressing people, you do not have control over what impresses other people or what you're proving to them. And if you give them that much power over you, you'll never be enough or happy enough. Because there are people out there that doesn't matter what you do, say, think, or you'll never impress them or never be enough for them. Right?
Yes. Also, it really is rough because you can never, if that's what you're basing your self-esteem on, not only have you lost all sense of control over how you feel about yourself, but also you have to perceive what you think someone is perceiving about you. So even if they thought you were awesome or they thought you did a good job, if you don't think they thought you were, it just puts so many variables into it where there is so much room for discrepancy, so much room for misunderstanding. And so your insecurities could be completely based off nothing, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's on top of the fact that it shouldn't matter because you don't want to give I liked the way you said it, you shouldn't give other people power over how you feel about yourself, because when you're going for perfectionism, you start caring about things based on, well, I think you actually start caring about things you don't really care about when you're going for perfectionism, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I remember I had a moment once where I was like, I think I was spending too much time on Instagram a while ago, and it was when people were starting to post a lot about like, you know, I got this done to my face, I got this done to my face. And I remember thinking all of a sudden, I like was looking at my nose and I was like, and then I was like, what am I doing? I've always liked my nose. Like, why would I suddenly think that there's something wrong with my nose because I see everyone caring so much about their perfect noses or whatever, you know, whatever it was. And I've realized you have to be really careful that you don't start trying to be perfect or perfectionism because it's what you think other people want and what you think other people need. Because then you start caring about stuff that you don't care about, but you trick yourself into thinking you care about it. I don't know. It's really big spiral.
Yeah. And it's hard with you're having kids because, I mean, she kind of touches on it here, but like you project that onto your children and when you expect them to look or say or do a certain thing, and how harmful that can be when, I don't know, like I'm silly, but I have a hard time when my kids are in their jammies all day. Like, it's like one of my things. I'm like, we can get dressed. We can do this, you know? But like, when I put that pressure on my kids that like, no, we're getting dressed, even though we're not going anywhere, I have to like step back and say like, why do I care? Like, what's really important? That I have a fight over this with my kid and he's unhappy and uncomfortable all day just so that I can feel better that if somebody stops by and happens to see my kids, they don't look like they're homeless, you know, like whatever, like who cares if they're happy? Like, I don't know.
A homeless looking kid is a happy kid. No,
right? I need to get that on the wall. So
that would be a great wall quote. I know, I was going to say, a homeless looking human is also a happy human.
Oh boy. I'd be one of those, if that was like a shame trigger for me, oh man.
Oh, that's so funny.
I think my kids have used that phrase with me a lot. Mom, you look homeless today. So do you, son. So do you. Let's live on.
Dish it right back to him.
Lindsay, I'd love to hear what the Brene Brown was talking about, how her daughter was like late to school, you know, and how they threw this party. Like, it's okay. Like, sometimes we're late. Like, I could relate to this so much because it was like, there's so many things that it's like, again, this is minding the gap. Like, you're late for school. It's okay. It's totally fine. It's not a big deal. And then next day, mom is freaking out because she's late for something. And I'm a terrible mom or person. I'm late or whatever. And the daughter's like, but you just told me yesterday that it was okay that I was late and that it's okay to be human. Like, there are so many things like that I was like, oh my gosh, like you don't even correlate the two together. And
it's kind of, is that what they call a double standard?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Like where you, yeah. I always think that I'm like, oh crap, I'm doing the same thing I told you not to do. But then that's why you need to have more grace with yourself too. Like,
right.
It's okay. It's not that big of a deal.
And that your kids are watching that. That's what's so crazy. It's like your kids are watching like those little perfectionism things about you. Like they watch that and then they take a cue from you like, oh, so when this happens, I should feel this way, you know, because they're watching how you respond. And it's like, oh, so I thought that was a really good example and just why it's so crucial to provide, again, empathy and grace for yourself. And because your kids are watching how you react to those certain situations and things.
Absolutely. We can skip ahead just for a second to touch on all this. On page 28, at the bottom, she says, basically, we can't raise children who are more shame resilient than we are. I can encourage Ellen to love her body, but what really matters are the observations she makes about my relationship with my own body. She says, dang it. It's so true. I mean,
yeah. I just saw something on Instagram about it. It was just a mom talking about how she never talks poorly about her body or about her physical appearance in front of her kids because she doesn't want her kids to think that that's where their worth comes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have watched my sisters do really well at this and how they've, you know, and it comes from the fact that our moms weren't aware that when they talked, like I think a lot of us can say that our mom's generation talked a lot about their bodies. I know that was something that was talked about a lot in my home, and not to say like that was anybody's fault, but because we know so much more now, it's allowed my sisters, they do not talk about like, yeah, their bodies. If they talk about working out, it's that mom wants to be strong. You know, it's,
yeah.
Anyways, and I see that with you guys too, the way that you guys engage with your kids. And, but man, that's hard because they, there's so many things.
Awareness too. Like you have to be so aware and you're going to fail. And like, that's when you say to your kids, like, I shouldn't have said that about myself. Yes. That wasn't nice to talk to myself like that. I need to be kind to myself because, and again, like apologizing and making, you know, whether it's to you or to them, like just showing like that. This is something that I felt so powerfully recently. Like our homes have to be safe places to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And like that we can try again and we can fix them. Like it's so important because if they can't make a mistake at home and try again and do better here, there's no other place that's going to be kinder than in their home with two parents that are, or a parent or an adult that's trying at least to be the best they can for them. You know, it's no safer place. So.
Well, and not only do they need to know that like you can make mistakes here, but how are they better going to learn that than seeing mom make a mistake and like talk about it, you know? So I think that like that Me Too, she talks about like, you know, the same thing with like being late, being like, oh, I've been late before, like, and it's okay. Or realizing that you made a mistake and we're going to talk about it. I think is such a good example for kids. That's the way they're going to learn it, is by seeing it modeled.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Several people in the email wrote what was on page 223, the quote that she puts at the bottom. She said, let your face speak what's in your heart. When they walk in the room, my face says, I'm glad to see them. It's just as small as that.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
What do you guys, like, what are ways, I don't know, how do you put this into action?
I liked this a lot because I was like, I can do that. That's really simple. You know, like the first time you see your kids, they come home from school or they're getting ready to go to school or whatever it is, like just taking the time to like get excited. Yeah. And tell them how much you love them. And, you know, rather than what's really hard for me is most of the time, the first time I see my kids is when they wake up in the morning, and when they get up too early, I'm like, no, go back to bed. But you know, I can, yeah. I'm like, but I can still acknowledge them and, you know, show them that I care and that they're important to me, and then send them back to bed.
And it's super easy to do this with a baby when you think about it. Like a baby, we naturally do it like, but it's like, it takes intention to do it with the older kids. Like that's something that I've worked on. But this I loved. The other thing too, that's kind of along this lines that I have a friend that's a therapist that she wrote about, is that when you offer a hug, don't ever be the first one to let go with your kid. Just let them let go. And I thought, oh, like I'd probably sit there all day with some of the kids, but no, like they'll hug you and then they're like, okay. And then they just kind of go on their way.
Yeah.
And I those are two things, like this one that I'm going to really try to implement, like lighting up when you see them, because who doesn't like that? Like when you get seen, like, oh, I must be kind of special. You just got a big smile. But also too, just like, don't be the first to let go in a hug. Let your kids be the ones to let go.
What I liked about it is that you can also implement this even if you don't have kids, right? How better would the world be? How much better the world would be if we had that face towards everyone, you know, a face that shows them that they're loved, you know? And I don't know, I feel like there are probably a lot of people that their day would change if they would see that face of love, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And one of the things, like my mother-in-law is really good at this, like she sees you and it's like my husband's family all does this when they see each other. And I'm always like, you guys just saw each other like yesterday. What are we so excited about? But I realized it's because it takes a level of vulnerability to do it, to light up like that for somebody, because instantly in my mind, well, they're probably not that excited to see me. So why, like, that's kind of scary. So it takes a level of vulnerability to be like, so good to see you. Because on the flip side, they might be like, oh, great, here I am seeing you. You know what I mean? But if we do it for even just like strangers, like, hey, how is it going? Like, you never know. That probably would change their day, you know?
Yeah. You know, and I just want to say, I love the fan community that we have here, because I see that all the time, you guys being there to lift each other up. Maybe it's not through a smile necessarily, because, you know, a lot of times it's through comments and screen names. But like, I see you guys lift each other up, and a lot of times someone will express an issue and a struggle they're having. And before I've even seen it, I see this list of fans and friends that have commented and uplifted each other. And, you know, Cool Gaming Princess just said, shared in the chat a little bit ago, I'm bullied for being in a wheelchair and I want to be an actor though. And I just saw, you know, all these people chiming in, giving love and encouragement. And, you know, and then at the end of this like interaction, she said, Cool Gaming Princess says, I'm going to go cry now. You guys are the best. So I just want to say thank you for being a safe space here. And, you know, like, this is how the world gets changed. It's through parents being there for their kids. It's for communities and being kind to strangers. It's for, you know, it's all of these things where you get to practice these kind of interactions that will change the world and make individuals feel seen and special. And so I just wanted to highlight that because that was really, really cool.
I wanted to share something real quick, because I feel like this also makes you feel better. Like the whole idea of giving love and a hug, it's obviously like it benefits you as well. Like you feel better about yourself and about life and about, you know, it just brings positive vibes to you. And I think I'm from Mexico, so our culture is very like effective and like very expressive. And I remember the first time that I had, this was probably my sophomore or freshman year. No, it wasn't freshman. It was either sophomore or junior year. And one of my roommates in the mornings, she was, you know, like you're kind of grumpy in the morning sometimes, but I'm never grumpy. I always like wake up like super happy. And so at first I would just come and I'd be like, hey, good morning. And then like, I wouldn't get anything from her. So I'd be like, okay, like I should probably not do it because I'm like making her feel uncomfortable. So I stopped doing it. But then I realized that it was also making me like not as happy about the day. You know, it was kind of like turning me into like a grump in the mornings because I wouldn't like, you know, be happy to see people in the morning. So then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to continue doing it. And as we lived together more and more, she would like give me like a little like, you know, smile. And I just love that it was like contagious, you know, in a way. So I think it's awesome because it doesn't always like make them feel better, but also makes you feel good.
For sure.
Yeah.
I love that. It's contagious back to yourself.
Yes.
I mean, it is true though. Like, there's magic in a smile because I think it's so funny sometimes how like miraculous our minds are. But also our brains are very much like a really sophisticated computer. When you smile, it feels these receptors and these muscles move in your face and it triggers the reaction in your brain that I'm happy, and you automatically start to produce serotonin, which is the like happy chemical in our body. And so it's pretty crazy that like, yeah, smiles and kindness and that, you know, it automatically makes our brain start to function differently purely by smiling or by lighting up your eyes. So that's a very good point, Vivian. Thank you. Let's see. I want to get into this before we run out of time for sure. What is the difference between shame and guilt? Big, very important distinction that I didn't know until I read this book.
This is huge.
This is huge.
So shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad.
Yes.
And I love that she talks with her children. She uses some examples in here about, you know, her teacher called or either somehow connected with Brene and was like, so I told your daughter she got in the glitter station, was covered in glitter. And I said, Ellen, you're a mess. And she says, I'm not a mess. But I might be making a mess or something. So then I'm like, and I love that, just separating ourselves from, or our worthiness from our behaviors, you know, like they are different things, and and having that dialogue with your kids is huge. Like, I mean, I wish I had that growing up. And so like, even today coming home from school, my oldest, he said, oh, so like kids are so funny. They love to talk about how other kids got in trouble. And so he was like, oh, so-and-so mom, he had such a bad day. You know, he got this many because he was so bad today. And we just had to talk about, well, is he bad or did he do some things bad? And he was like, oh yeah, he just did things bad. It wasn't, you know, him. And it's simple as that, you know, just kind of changing his mindset.
And I love how, like, when you talk about I am bad, there's no room for change. I am bad, but I did something bad. There's room for change. So one has room for growth. Guilt is a wonderful tool to help us grow and develop and become the best versions of ourselves, where shame seems final and seems unredeemable. So
right.
I am bad.
The opposite, right? Shame, because you'll sink into it because it's part of who you are. Yeah.
It makes changing seem impossible because it's deeming who we are, which is just not true.
And I saw somebody was talking about like how they envision it, like you have a struggle or something you do and it's a weight, you put it in your backpack, and shame, you bring it along with you, rather than guilt is something you trip over, recognize it, you know, deal with it, and then move on. And you have the chance to keep moving forward rather than carrying it with you.
Yeah. And I think this is also key, not only to think about in terms of like other people and, you know, teaching children or friends or whoever, but also like the self-talk voice in your mind, like not accepting anymore that you are dumb or that you are bad or that you are, you know,
not
selfish or you are not enough. Like all those voices, that's how they talk. They always will talk like that unless you like kind of train the voices in your head, or I guess not train, but just don't accept that. Like, don't let your mind talk to you like that. The same way, like if you hear your kids say like, if you heard your kids say that, you'd be like, no. Like, you are not bad. Like, you know, you are not worthless. Like, you know, you got to say that to yourself sometimes. Like, okay, I am not that. I had a rough day and I'll do better tomorrow, or like whatever it is. So I think that has been one of the biggest things that helped me transform my life years ago, was just not accepting the natural voice that had been taught to my brain and like kind of retraining it of what I would and wouldn't accept it to say. So why is shame so dangerous to children?
I want to read that quote if I can.
Please.
It says, for young children who are still dependent on their parents for survival, for food, shelter, and safety, feeling unlovable is a threat to survival. It's trauma. On page 225, sorry.
Yeah.
It says, I'm convinced that the reason most of us revert back to feeling childlike and small when we're in shame is because our brain stores our early shame experiences as trauma. And when it's triggered, we return to that place.
Yes.
Which is so sad.
So sad, but I'm sure it happens to all of us. in some way, shape, or form. We've talked about our own triggers. And it's like a smell or like a song where it like immediately will take you back to a moment or a memory. Like, you know, these things can pull us back. And that happens regardless of how amazing or unamazing our homes were that we were raised in. That's just something that will happen. But I think that making your home or your surroundings a safe place definitely decreases the amount. And let's see, where should we go next? We don't have a ton of time left, and there's a lot.
You guys,
left.
What did you think about? I really liked, and I actually had a conversation with Abigail about fitting in and belonging.
Yes.
I thought that was something that was really important for in the backs of my book. I always write like new things that I learn. I can see it. So when I pick up the book that years down the road, I remember, I learned this from it, and this was enough to mark it in the back.
Ooh.
But I said I love learning about the difference between fitting in and belonging. Fitting in assessing a situation and becoming who you need to be in order to be accepted. So you're changing who you are in order to be accepted. Whereas belonging doesn't require us to change who we are. It requires us to be who we are. And then it says fitting in is one of the biggest barriers to belonging. And I had a really good discussion with my 9-year-old about that. Like, no one, like, fitting in doesn't make us feel whole or complete or valued. Like, we have to change who we are. Whereas belonging is you get to be who you are. Like, how cool is that, you know?
Yeah.
You can never be comfortable when you're trying to fit in. Like, there's always going to be some, pushback because it's not authentic, and it's just never going to be comfortable if you're always trying to be something you're not, and you have a facade or a wall up or whatever it is. And then belonging is, I just feel like when I think of the definitions you just talked about, just like how being comfortable, like it just makes me think of, like I'm where I belong, I'm home, or whatever it is. And I mean, it all comes down to me just realizing that we're all children of God, and we're all humans, and we're all people, and we all have, this baseline of our spirits that, that's, we all belong, and we are all unified in that.
Yeah. And think about it in terms also like how you feel when you are with friends or family or people where you literally can just be yourself and belong, how relaxing and nice and just like wonderful that feeling is, versus when you're with, and not a bad group of people or, mean people or anything, but just people where you have to like have that energy devoted into like understanding your place in the situation. It's exhausting. And so what a beautiful feeling it is to really belong somewhere. And the only way to get there is by being vulnerable. And, that's the only way you get to a point of feeling so comfortable and loved. Does anybody else have any thoughts on fitting in versus belonging? Let's see.
I mean, I just think like the biggest thing is with fitting in is that you would constantly have to change depending on who you were with and how exhausting to try to even remember like what you're like around when and where, and belonging is just a place where you get to just be.
Yeah.
And I think, there's a huge difference too. Like sometimes I think people take it to the extreme where this is who I am, so I'm not changing. No, we're all trying to grow and develop. That's not the concern. But belonging, when you truly belong, you feel safe enough to grow and develop.
Ooh, say that again.
Belonging is where you feel safe enough to grow and develop.
Write that down. That's good.
Put that in the back of your book.
Write that in your book, Jenny. It's because it is so true. You can't be like, well, they'll accept me for who I am or nothing, but that was so well said. Let's jump to page 234. Because I really liked this spot.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking about that again, just what you said, Jenny, because like with you guys, I feel obviously very safe and comfortable, but I still know that you expect me to be the best that I can be, you know?
Mhm.
Like, and I feel like that's part of belonging, is that you expect people to do their best. I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah, no,
And
actually,
you want to. And you want to.
Well, also kind of going back to like we were talking about, Janny's home growing up and how it was a safe place where there were rules and there were guidelines, and having expectations makes you feel safe. It makes you feel like you have the potential to be your best self, and I think that's a perfect way to put it. Is like that's even with your friends and with people. It's like it's not like it's a free for all. And that's what makes you feel comfortable and loved. It's like, no, we expect all of us to show up for each other and be the best we can be. And we're there for each other when we're weak. But, so I think the two are kind of synonymous together.
Sorry, 234.
234. Okay. Right in the middle of the page. Compassion. Can you read that, Vivian?
Yes. Compassion is not a relationship between the healer and the wounded. It's a relationship between equals. Only when we know our own darkness well can we be present with the darkness of others. Compassion becomes real when we recognize our shared humanity.
I just loved that quote so much. And one of our friends in the email, David Silverwolf, says, why does our media culture foster racism and inequality? Why are the rich more valuable than the poor? Why does skin color matter? Ethnicity, gender, age? God made each angel unique. God makes each human unique. Why define ourselves by petty devices? We are all equal in his eyes. God gives us life experiences so that we learn how to love and relate to each other. It is by overcoming trials and tribulations that we grow. It is by recognizing our strengths and weaknesses within these experiences, the light and the dark, that we may form connection. So I thought that was really cool. He was saying that in relation to this quote, because I feel like so often, our world does just divide us into haves, have-nots, cool, uncool, good, bad. And oh, dang it, where did she say it? Earlier in the chapter, Brene Brown said that there should be no model for like good or bad parenting, or good or bad people. Because she's like, on any given day, I could fall into probably both those buckets, based on like a moment or a reaction or just somebody else's lens. And so not separating everybody so much and just seeing us as like, we are all people. We don't have to divide into the healer or the wounded, the have not. Compassion is about, or compassion is not a relationship between the healer and the wounded. It's a relationship between equals.
Well, the thing is we're all so complex, and there are always situations where we are, hold up, honey. My daughter just came in. She's all, Mom! She's got home from dance. Say hi.
Hi!
Hi. Hi. But we're all at one point or another the wounded or the healer,
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I feel like being judgmental. I think when we think that we're the healers, we become the judgmental people, right? We're like, no, like if that mom only could hear me for 5 minutes, she would know how to handle the situation because I'm the healer, But there's so many times where we're the wounded ones and we're like, holy crap, can someone help me,
Absolutely.
And so I love those two words that she uses, healer and wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime too, I feel like this is something that I've realized through working with people in trauma. When you separate yourself as one or the other, it's really easy to see themselves as less than, and that is one of the biggest barriers to true healing. And it's actually a gift and a sacred space to be able to sit with somebody. And if you label it as you're giving them, you're not getting what you get back. Like
you're not open to receive.
Yeah, like it's like there is true gift in being present for the wounded and for her, you know what I mean? Like, and we're all like, but we're all that. Like, I'm not articulating this very well, but anytime you ever think of yourself above another, like they've actually done studies, like one of the fastest ways of determining if somebody's going to get divorced is if there's content in their marriage, which means that one person feels better than the other person. That's like the one of the most number one reasons divorce. They can predict almost to a 90%. Like it's crazy. And so I think that's with anytime you think that you're above or better than somebody else, you're not in the greatest space.
Right.
Yeah, and that reminds me a lot of times, like talking about parenting, when I'm with my daughter and I'm trying to, kind of like go to like make a connection, I have to kind of like meet her eye level, and I think that we can do that with each other, right? Like we can just see ourselves as equals, even when we're trying to not teach that person, but like help that person, right? Like it's not, I'm better than you, so I'm going to give you my advice, but like, hey, I'm like here with you and I'm listening. Yes. And I think that would be a practice to do not only with kids, but with people, meeting them where they're at.
I love that, like getting to their eye level. And I feel like in the last chapter we talked about that a little bit, where she shared the story of like get on the same side of the desk, with people, like get to their level the same way you would with a child. Let's see, before we leave, I just want to read one thing right here. On page 238, she says, I wholeheartedly believe that when we are fully engaged in parenting, regardless of how imperfect, vulnerable, and messy it is, we are creating something sacred. And so I was like, I think that everyone should remember that when you look at your life and, you're trying your best, you're trying to create something, whether it's a family or whether it's your dreams or, whether it's just trying to help someone else, like whatever it is, when you look at your life and it may seem imperfect, but it's vulnerable and it's messy, I want you to remember and look at your space and just say, I'm creating something special. Like, and remind yourself of that when your kids are still in their pajamas at noon, or I don't know. I thought that was really beautiful because I think that when I see my friends with their kids and they'll be like, I'm a hot mess, they're still like, look at her hair. I'm just like, that's like, a messy home is a lived in home. And like, homeless children, those, like Janie said, are happy children. You're creating something sacred. And so I also want to encourage you guys, anyone in your life, if you see it as messy, but you're doing your best, just remember you're in the process of creating something sacred. I also like the one last thing I want to go about is hope isn't an emotion. It's a way of thinking or a cognitive process. I really liked that. She talks about hope like it's something that it's not like an attribute. It's not something intangible. It's something that you learn. So hope isn't an emotion. Yeah, it's something you work for. It's a way of thinking or a cognitive process. Emotions play a supporting role, but hope is really a thought process made up of what we call a trilogy of goals, pathways, and agency. And she talks about that hope happens when we make plans for it to happen. Hope happens when we look for it. Hope happens when we create it. The feeling that comes from hope, the emotion, is only a secondary supporting role of hope. Hope comes through thought, action, making plans, goals. I thought that was pretty cool. I
like that too.
Yeah.
Hope is so crucial.
Why is it so crucial?
Well, one of the things that they say whenever they enter refugee camps is people can see that the people don't have hope in their eyes. Because hope is almost like a state of being. It's not just a feeling, it's an actual, it's a very real, almost like I think of it like with babies that have failure to thrive. Hope is like a failure to thrive. And it is often through kindness and humanity where that spark of hope is reignited. Like when we do street outreach, I teach the volunteers like that the only thing that they're really doing is showing up and showing them that they care. And in return, there's just a prayer that you showing up and being there for them will spark the hope in them that will give them the courage and the desire to change or to seek out help or to whatever it is. So without hope, it's like failure to thrive. Like there's why do we keep going?
Yeah.
And the fact that you can, I love that I have never heard of hope described this way, and I want to contemplate it and think about it more. But the fact that it's a practice makes it more in your control, which I really love, because I think about like Viktor Frankl, like in The Man's Search for Meaning. I think what gave him the ability to continue on was, again, hope. Mm-hmm. And it was a state of mind and a practice that he practiced. I haven't thought about this through very much. It's just coming to my brain now, but
yeah,
you kind of you're in a bit more control because it's a practice and a decision. So,
right.
Anyway.
No, absolutely. She says hope is learned with an exclamation point. Hope is learned. And she says it's a combination of setting goals, having the tenacity and perseverance to pursue them, and believing in our own abilities. That is hope. And it made me realize that, like, the same way I've turned gratitude from a feeling into a practice that I wanted to better understand and I wanted to better learn. I was like, oh my gosh, hope is very similar. It too can be learned. It's like, I think all these emotions, we just kind of wait for them to come to us thinking, oh, like, yeah, like gratitude is nice. It makes you feel good. Hope, it makes you feel like you can do something. But like, these are things that we don't just have to wait for them to come and rest upon us. Like, we can seek them, we can learn them, we can practice them. So, anyways, we've been going for a really long time. Hi, Adeline. Oh, we got the whole team.
The whole team packing in.
But I just want to say thank you guys so much for being a part of this book club. Like, I've wanted to do this for a while, and I never knew. I was like, I can't do it by myself. And so I'm so grateful to my amazing friends for being here and doing this with me and teaching me so much. I feel like I have learned so much through this process. So thank you guys for your time and for all the attention and energy put into this. Thank you, everybody in the chat as well, for like all your comments, your emails. They meant the world to me. I loved reading them. Yes, I'll be back next Thursday, not for book club. I'll be doing a stream with Mako, and then we will be starting a book club up again the following week on Thursday. So, again, thank you. Love you all so much. Love you, ladies. I will see you on Marco Polo.
It's been so fun. I'm like sad. I can't even think about it.
We'll do it again. We'll do it again.
We will. Thank you, Lindsey.
Okay, mwah.
Yes.
Love you all.
Thank you, Lindsey fans.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. By the way, everybody, look at, there she is. There's the little lady. Oh, you smell like a dog. Oh, yeah, we need a bath. You smell like a dog. Luna. Yes, I see everybody in the chat saying hi to Luna. Yes, everybody stay positive and healthy. I like that from Epic to Sound. Good night, everybody who is in faraway places where it's super late. Yes, Music Loving Gamer, a stream with Mako next Thursday. So everybody come join us. We're going to be talking about the acoustic version of Lose You Now that's going to come out next week, which is super exciting. Wow, look at that. I am shiny. I'm going to blame the lighting. Anyways, whatever. Don't care. Some young B-Day 247 keeps asking for the only part of the party. I don't know. You guys don't want to read my memoir. That would actually be fun because I bet I could get my sister Brooke to stream with me and talk about it. But maybe we could tell you all because there was some stuff that I legally was not allowed to put in the book. Some of the real juicy stuff because you couldn't put it in writing, you know. But maybe I could tell you guys all the secret juice behind it. The positivity glow is showing. Thank you, USF Bymene. Legally, Zane asks with a question mark. Yes, certain things, you know, you can't say. I don't know. I can't even say it now. Just because, for example, here's an example. The America's Got Talent chapter was very short. It was originally a really like juicy chapter with lots of details and behind the scenes stuff. And I ended up having to take all of it out because legally, you know, I didn't want America's Got Talent to sue me for some of the things that I said because you signed a non-disclosure agreement when you know, I don't know. Anyways, that's just one example. I also had like Oh, I could get into juicy stories, but I won't. I also had like a long time ago, I got really, really burned through a business deal, and like it was crazy. I had to go back and forth to court for a year to try to get out of this person that was suing me for something I did not do. And anyway, so stuff like that I was like, this is really interesting, but I couldn't share it because it was, I could get in trouble legally. Okay, anyways, Anavar07 says, oh, you teaser, you. Yeah, just sit on that for a while. Okay, well, again, any idea of a next album? Asks Mary P92. I don't know if I'm going to do another album for a while, but I am writing again. I think I might do some singles or maybe a EP, which is like a small album, just because I want to do something a little more experimental, something that's a little different, and so I don't want to devote an entire album to trying a new style. So I'm like, maybe I'll just release a single or like, yeah, a song here and there just for fun. So that would be fun. What book is next? I don't know. Like I said, I won't be doing book club next week. So in the next week, I will pick a new book and then let you know before next Thursday so that you have time to order it and get it before we start streaming book club the following week. Why do they call you Lizard? I'll see you dead. Asks, Janny started calling me Lizard in college. I don't know why or where it came from, just because it sounds like Lindsay Lizard. I don't know, but that's always been Janny's. She's the only person that calls me Lizard. Bring Brooke on to spill the tea. Oh, by the way, look at cute little Luna. She's just sitting right here. She's the most calm, sweet dog. Oh, we love you, Luna. Is it possible to subscribe with Apple Pay? I think so. I don't know though. Lindsay Lizard, yes. Man, I've got really tired all of a sudden. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. That was really fun. This has always been one of my favorite books. It's inspired a lot of the writing of my music. It gave me courage to write music. It's given me courage to get on stage when I was too scared. So it's really helped me out as a musician. And I just love these kind of books. So anyways, I'm sorry I keep saying this, but thank you. Oh, yes, someone's asking, Ryan Penguin is asking about new comic book and new merch coming soon. I know I keep saying this, but we literally are like doing the final lettering pass on the comic book. So I've gotten the cover done and everything. By the way, spoiler alert, but one of my fans, one of you guys, got to do the cover for this comic book, which I was super excited about to involve, someone who's done fan art for me and, just on their own for years, and to be able to hire them to do the cover was really exciting. So that's fun. But yeah, we're just in the final lettering stages and it should go to print next week. New merch. We have Lose You Now merch, which I love. It's really, really cute. We've taken a while to design it, but so Lose You Now t-shirts will be released on the website next week, which is pretty cool. And I think that's about it. Any other last questions for me or Luna? Good night, Starling 1318. What kind of books do I like? Mary P92. I really like self-improvement books. Like I love these kind of books, like that kind of help you better understand yourself, better understand your mind, motivational, all of that stuff, like manifesting. I just like all those kind of books that are about bettering yourself. Okay, well, that's about it. Have a good night, everybody. Good morning, whatever it is, wherever you are. This is Lindsey Stirling signing out.